Hey guys, and welcome back. Today we're going to do another 3 scrap wood projects, this time with the focus being on live edge, like this beautiful live edge wall-mounted magnetic knife holder. These are big hits at craft shows, great for gifts too. We've also got a simple yet elegant live edge soap dispenser holder. Could be a pot holder, whatever you want to put on that. And last but not least, what my wife would call cute tea light holder. Again, these are big sellers at craft shows, very easy to build. So stick around and I'll show you how I make them all. But first, please hit that like, subscribe button so I can keep making videos like this for you. The first thing I like to do on the live edge projects is knock the bark off. Some people like to leave it on there, which is fine. It's a preference. If you do leave the bark on, use a real good sealer once you get it cleaned up. But me personally, I like the look of the bark off it. So before I do any of my cutting, I'm going to take that off. That way I can see what piece of the wood I want to use, what's the widest part, all that stuff. So I'm just going to secure that and take my chisels to it. I'm just going to take my chisel and gently pry away the bark here, trying to avoid gouging the wood itself. And the wood I'm using for all these projects is a walnut. Now that I got my bark all cleaned off and I can see what pieces I want to use, I'm going to put a straight edge on both these pieces. That just makes everything easier to work with, from miter cuts to anchors, all that stuff. So I'm going to use this jig here and get one straight edge on both pieces. I've got a detailed video on how to make one of these jigs over on my channel, so stop over and have a look. And while you're there, hit that subscribe button. For my soap dispenser holder, I'm going to cut off a piece about 6 inches wide from the end of this, and then I'll use what's left over for the tea lights. This piece is just over 2 inches thick, so I'm going to actually resaw this down to about 1 inch a piece, and I can make 2 soap dispenser holders out of this one piece. So now that I got both top pieces done for my soap dispenser holders, I'm going to go ahead and rip the piece for my tea light holder, mainly because I'm going to use the offcuts for the legs of the soap holders. So I'm going to set this up for 3.5 inches in width and just cut a strip. I'm going to then take the offcut from the tea light holder and make small 3/4 inch by 3/4 inch strips for the legs of my soap holder. So before I assemble the soap dispenser holders, I'm actually going to put some grooves in the top of this. And what that's going to do is allow for spilt soap or water from your hands just to have a place to drain so it's not sitting and gunking up at the base of the dispenser. So in order to do that, I'm just going to set my table saw blade real shallow and make a couple passes with the top of this. Then I'm going to sand all my pieces before I assemble them. Now all that's left to do for this is to glue the little legs on. And all I'm going to do here is I just took an extra cut off piece. I'll use that as a spacer to make sure everything stays even. Just going to use a little bit of wood glue. I'm just going to use a little dab of CA too because I wanted to set up nice and quick. And I decided to put a couple different colors of stain on these. It's not something I usually do with a wood like walnut, but this is a very light walnut and there's not a whole lot of live edge there to catch the eye, so I thought it might just make it pop a bit. And to finish these off, I'm just going to put a couple thin coats of clear coat on them. And just like that, you finished your soap holders. So for my tea light holder, since this is something that's probably going to sit on a table or a mantle, you want to make sure it's perfectly flat and it's not rocking. So I'm going to head over to my joiner and give it a quick pass with that. I could just sand it down, but since I got the joiner already set up, I'm just going to run over to that real quick. Now I'm going to set my miter saw up to 45 degrees and cut both ends off. This is just going to give it a little bit of character. Now I'm just going to make sure all three lights are evenly spaced. Now I want my tea lights to sit pretty much flush in the holder. So what I've done is I measured the width of these, made a little mark on the side here, and I'll just set my bit to stop at that depth. Now I'm going to sand it down to 220 before I put a clear coat on it. Now that was an easy build, but I tell you, people love these. Now for the last but the most popular piece yet, the wall-mounted magnetic knife holder. And unlike the other pieces, this one I've got to be really sure that I've got a nice flat surface for two reasons. You want it to mount against the wall nice and flush, and I'm going to be setting up my drill press later to repeat drill holes for the magnets, and I got to make sure I don't come through the front of it to ruin the piece. So now I'm going to head over to the joiner and then my plater to bring it down to the final width. Next, I'm going to measure and make marks where I'm going to put each of my magnets. By putting the magnets in the center of the board, it's going to allow it to accommodate all different sizes of knives. So next, I've got to drill the holes for the magnets. And I've made a video before in the past with these magnetic knife holders, a little different than this, but same idea. I've got two Forstner bits, one with the point shaved off. So I'm going to use this one to start the hole, and then I'm going to use this one to finish it off, because this is going to let me get real nice and close to the outside face of the board. Now with the holes drilled, I've got to switch out my bit for the one with the shaved tip. Now I've got some really strong magnets, I'll leave a link in the description for them, but you still need to come as close as you can to the outside of that wood for maximum strength. So this is very important to get this set up as close as possible without breaking through. Now there's a couple different methods to attaching this to the wall. You can use simple little D-rings. You can use these little figure 8 clips. But I got my router set up with a keyhole slot here, so I'm going to put a couple slots right on the back. And I typically like to make mine pretty long, because what that does is lets you kind of shift it side to side if you want to center it. Now I'm going to use some CA glue just to hold the magnets in place. You can use anything you have laying around. Typically what I'll do is wait till I do an epoxy pour and then use the leftover to fill in the magnets in the back later. Once the magnets are dry and I get everything sanded down to 220, I'm going to put a nice coat of walrus oil on this. Now, this is going to be used for knives, so it needs to be a food grade oil, which this is. And I've been using this stuff for quite a while and I just love it. There, you've got a beautiful knife holder. Pretty easy to make. Like I said, the key to these are the magnets though. Don't cheap out on the magnets and take your time getting that drill press set up. But people love these. I hope you enjoyed the video today, and if you did, please be sure to leave a like, or better yet, hit that subscribe button. Till next time.